Thank you. Thank you. Whenever I have a little free time, I like to hang out at home by myself and cry. Although lately I've been branching out a little bit, I've been getting into internet poker. It's a little bit healthier, I think, slightly more glamorous. Although it can be hard. It can be hard trying to prove your manhood for real money against a group of strangers over the computer. And it's especially hard when you're half drunk and playing 4 or 5 games at the same time while simultaneously trying to hunt down and kill a cockroach the size of a Pringle that you've spotted inside your apartment. And I found myself in this predicament a few months back. I had been out drinking with my friend Kirk. I was feeling a little bit despondent, and I'm not a psychiatrist, but I always feel like mild depression should be treated with a mild depressant, a little bit of alcohol. Perhaps some of you this evening are espousing this particular theory. It's homeopathic, like cures like. So I was out with my friend Kirk. My girl had recently left me. She had told me in so many words that I wasn't man enough for her. She said, "I want a man, and you're still a little boy." And I said, "Am not." She said, "Art too." I said, "Am not." We went back and forth like that for a minute. She was 15, by the way, so it was a very weird conversation. And I said to Kirk, I'm feeling down, and I feel like when a woman says you're not enough of a man, what she means is you're not enough of an animal. You lack the sort of the bestial energy and the vigor and the just even the mere desire to touch another person, which animals seem to have. And Kirk, who's sort of like myself, he's a little bit of a geek also, and he said, he used to be a mathematician, and now he plays poker for a living, and he said, yeah, I know what you mean, and we started to talk a little bit. I also, as some of you may know from stories that I've told here at the Moth, I gamble for a living. I've done that for 5 or 6 years now. It's a true story. It's sort of a weird, unnecessary story, but it's the way it's turned out. I don't play poker, though. I play a different game. I don't really understand poker. And Kirk was telling me this evening about, as we drank, he was telling me about poker and about how wonderful it's been for him and how wonderful life has been for him since the internet poker explosion got going, because he was saying he used to have to be on the road all the time, going down to Las Vegas, out to Atlantic City, up to Connecticut, traveling all the time, which is what I have to do. And for the past 2 years, since this sort of epiphenomenon has broken out, he's just sat in his living room grinning maniacally at the computer monitor and sipping like a big thing of Coke and just clicking the button. And he said, it's amazing. There's just, the players out on the internet are horrible. He tells me they're terrible players. They play any cards at all. They don't think about what they're playing. They think they're playing Galaga. You know what I mean? Or a video game. They just press the button and bet and bet. They forget there's real money attached to it. And all you have to do is play tightly and conservatively, and is a very easy way to earn a living. And really, it can be quite good. And he was saying, you might want to consider this, because maybe you'll feel a little more manly and sort of grounded and focused and intact if you're just sitting in one place for a while. And I thought about it, and he said, sure, there's a couple of books you can read. You could start, obviously not tonight when we've been drinking, but here's a couple of ideas. And he gave me some pointers. And we had one more round for the road. I took a cab home, booted up my computer, logged on to partypoker.com, zapped some money over from my NetTeller account, and got down to my new business as I thought of it in my sort of drunken state. I cracked open another beer to sort of celebrate the glamour of starting a new lifestyle, and began to play. And I was trying to remember what he had said. I was tight, and I would fold. And the players. It's true, just like Kirk had said, the players were very aggressive. They bet, and all the time, and they were just all the time. It's like they always had these hands betting, and I was losing very quickly. And I noticed after a little while, about an hour and a half of this, one of the players I was losing the most to was this maniac who was in almost every hand all the time betting. His screen name was M Brown 714. It was M Brown 714. He was from Huntington Beach, California. They actually tell you when when you're on the screen where they're logged in from. And I'm from Huntington Beach, California. And as the pummeling continued, I started to realize, the sun was coming up, and I was maybe not thinking so clearly, but I thought, you know what? I know this son of a bitch. I know who this is. M. Brown, 714 from Huntington Beach. This is Matt Brown. This was my nemesis. Matt Brown, my nemesis in 8th grade, back in junior high school, 7th grade, 8th grade. The kid more than any other who was responsible for making my then life a then living hell. This had to be him. He was always so aggressive, and we'd played basketball at recess. And in the 1980s in just Southern California, it was all about basketball. That was your soul. That was your test of manhood. There was no such thing as sort of wit or knowledge of trivia or musical talent. It was just, could you play basketball? How assertive were you on the court? That was the sole way that a man defined himself. And Matt he was very aggressive, and he could beat me. And finally, I decided to, over the summer, between 7th and 8th grade, I give it some thought, and I thought, basketball. And I was trying to, use my sort of geek wisdom, and I thought, what you're trying to do with basketball is you're trying to put the ball through the hoop, which I know sounds a little bit obvious, but I was very proud of that at the time because I thought it's simple. It's very simple in essence. You put the ball through the hoop. If you can just learn to make any shot, just any shot from anywhere on the entire court at any time, you, even me, could become the greatest living basketball player just in the whole world. It's all you got to do is learn to do. It's one trick, right? It's one move, and I watched a videotape, and I read a book, and you do this thing with the flip your hand, which looks a feat, but that's what you're supposed to do. And I got over the effete part, and I started practicing it, and became good. That my mom sort of over the garage hoop that we had, I became very good, and I could make almost any shot anywhere in the driveway and from the middle of the cul-de-sac. I could make that, which was like a 6-pointer as far as I was concerned. And we went out, and the school year, 8th grade started, and I started going out at the recess and the lunch and playing the pickup games, and I found that I wanted to shoot, and I would try shooting, and the only problem was that whenever there was another human being within 2 feet of me, I would freak out. I would just throw it like backwards over my head. I would panic completely, but I could make free throws because there was distance there. And so Matt, because he was so aggressive, continued to foul me. Now that I was shooting a lot, he was fouling me and hacking me and all these things, and I got to take a lot of free throws. But he didn't realize that you shouldn't really foul someone ever who cannot make any shot except a free throw. He didn't see the sort of insight was lacking. But I started scoring a lot just in free throws alone in these games, and midway through the semester, my scores were getting as high almost as Matt's were just on the basis of these free throws. And I noticed that the way he looked at me began to change. Like the way he regarded me, and his sort of a little bit of a hint of respect was blooming there. And after a game one day, he came up to me and he patted me on the shoulder, which is the first time he had ever touched me in a non-violent way, and he said, we should hang out sometime. And of course, it didn't occur to me to sort of, say, no, you bastard, you've made my life. I said, yes, please, can we, please. I almost dropped to my knees, and I said, come back to my mom's house after school, and we'll have a wonderful time. And we did. We went back, and we played Super Mario Brothers, and at a certain point, Matt got up and said, where's the bathroom? We were having fun, and I pointed out I had my bathroom, which is the bathroom that I was charged with cleaning. It was mine. It was my project, my responsibility. I was very proud of it. But I was also, that's the reason that there was a small Dixie cup upside down in the corner near the shower, there was a Dixie cup on the floor because over the summer there had been a cockroach in the bathroom when I had been taking a shower, and I panicked and I put the cup on top of it, which I would use for the toothbrushing, and I put the cup on top of it, and I thought I would take it up and I would kill it, but then I was afraid to do that because I'm very scared of bugs, so I just thought I'll leave the Dixie cup on top of the cockroach for 1 year, and it'll starve. It'll just die, and it'll solve the entire problem. So I left it there, and then until this moment when Matt said, I heard him from the bathroom. He flushed. He opened the door. He cried out, "What's this?" And I walked over there to say, "Oh, don't worry about that." But it was too late. He was picking it up, and the roach. It had been a few months, but to its credit, the roach just was still moving in the same direction that it had been moving in 2 months before. Roaches are very focused, you know what I mean? They have that animal kind of presence of mind. It just kept going, and I shrieked. I let out a scream because I was very scared of it, screamed, and Matt shot me this look, and I knew immediately that the story, I screamed frankly like a little girl, and the story, I knew the next day all around the schoolyard, it was going to be the story that the roach and the Dixie cup, and he would be telling it to everybody, and as soon as I realized what was about to happen, the trap I had set for myself, I started to cry. And so the story that actually, then this was before I enjoyed the tears so much. So it was embarrassing. And the story that went around the next day was that there had been a cup and screaming and like a girl and then tears, all tears. It was a horribly embarrassing moment. But now I thought 15 years later, the sun's coming up in Brooklyn, and I have Matt Brown by the short and Harry's because he's being way too aggressive. He doesn't know how to play. He's betting all the time. He's like a maniac on a Gallagher machine. I'm playing tight, little drunk, but playing tight. I'm going to get him. And I sort of looked around the website and found that he was playing 4 or 5 different tables at once. So I logged onto all those tables, got into every single game. Not that I had the poker capacity to sort of be able to play skillfully, but I waited and I bid my time and I waited. I was losing a little bit more and more. And then finally I got into 4 hands at the same time with Matt where I had the nuts is the poker term. I've since learned I had the best hands I had the straights, and I didn't even know the term, and I had flushes and box cars, whatever it was. I had the best hands that you could possibly have. I was going to win all the pots right then. I knew it. There was no doubt in my mind. And as I was about to, and he was betting, and I was betting, and I knew he was betting. He was a sucker, and I was going to get him. And as we were about to just have the showdown of all the hands at the very same time with just me and Matt and all 4 of these pots, this beast, it was almost the size of a duckling, frankly, this enormous roach darted out from underneath the desk, and I sort of reared back, but I was in kill mode, and I went after it across the room. I whipped off my shoe, and I came down right on top of it, and I killed it dead without no hesitation and no Dixie cups. And I whirled around to the computer monitor, ready for a moment of double victory, and I saw that I had been automatically folded out of all 4 hands because the software does to keep the game moving. If you don't click and just you're booted out. So all these pots that I was all going to win to the tune of almost $1,000 folded out of automatically, and so there was no no comeuppance with Matt Shaw that evening, and with Matt Brown, excuse me, that evening. And if he thinks there's a Matt Shaw story for another night, which is very precious, but Matt Brown got no comeuppance that evening, and if he ever thinks of me these days, I'm sure he remembers that moment and the scream like a little girl in the corner of the bathroom. But that cockroach can tell you, I kill like a man. Thank you.
Amazing.